This is the first annual Delwo to Delwo broadcast from Gonzaga University in Florence, Washington, in Florence, Italy. I will try to tell you a little bit of what I've done while I've been in Florence, or at least while I've been in Europe. I will bypass the trip from Spokane to New York, although it was a wonderful trip. I feel you've heard either from Butch or from myself in my letters more than I can tell you on tape. The first main thing of importance is, of course, the trip over on the ship. It was one of the most educational parts of the trip. I took part in as many activities as I could. Included is an art lecture. Every day we had art lectures. First time I've been exposed to that. We also had dance lessons every day. First time exposed to that. Then I also had chances to enter in contests like the hat contest, where I invented a wonderful looking hat. I don't know if I have any pictures of it, but it's a tremendous hat. I actually won first place. It was pretty close to first place. Then the limbo contest, the dance limbo. I got second on that. Got down to 2 feet low. Also the costume dance where I dressed up as a girl. We won first place. And also seeing the sunrise, staying up all night and seeing the sunrise, having champagne parties. It was just a tremendous experience. I got to meet Canadians, New Yorkers, Georgians, French people, Italian people, British people. You can't believe the number of people I've met and got to talk to and had a chance to understand a little bit about them. I even got to meet a South African on that. Well, anyway, since this tape is a lot shorter than you'd think, I took off on our opening tour around the 18th of September. Our first tour was in Amsterdam. I didn't stay with the group. I went off on my own and got to see a lot more than I think I would have ordinarily. I had a chance to meet an Italian and practice my Italian. This was educational in the fact that he knew no English and I knew not as much Italian as I should, but we got along fairly decent because he did know French and I knew enough French and enough Italian to get by. It's kind of a menagerie of languages. Well, my roommate just came in, but we had a 2-hour long art lecture, all in Italian and French combination, and it was on modern art. This is again the first time I was exposed to this type of art, and I learned more in those 2 hours in Italian than I think I would have learned in a semester of class, because this man appreciated modern art and actually could teach it very well. We then moved on to Germany. Got to go down the Rhine steamer. I almost missed the boat. I took off on an excursion for 2 hours and got a little bit further away from the base camp than I thought I would be, and had to hitchhike back in order to get there in time. I was there, but 2 minutes to spare is all I had. We took the 5-hour long trip down the River Rhine, and saw all the castles and everything. It was rather long, but it was interesting. If I had my camera, I think I would have wasted the whole roll of film on that. But as it stands now, I'm just collecting the various good pictures and trying to save money and just pick out their good pictures and not waste film on what probably would be bad pictures. We then went through several German towns, stopping first at Rubinstein, or whatever the devil, and got to see the National Monument. Then we went on down to Ulm and Frankfurt and Heidelberg. We just traveled all over the place. I don't really remember exactly the names of the places. I remember the names, but not in chronological order. We then went down to Wasserburg, which is right outside of Munich. And at Wasserburg, we were introduced to a family which we would stay with. We each had a family, or two of us had a family, something like that. Well, I had a wonderful German family that spoke no English, and I spoke very little German, and so I had to use my dictionary a lot more than I would have liked to. But it was very interesting because what we did get across kind of showed the type of people they were, and they have a tremendous love for their kids. It's quite different than a lot of the families in the United States. Of course, the Germans seem to have a lot more time to spend with their families than most Americans do. But then I think that's just because they are not as advanced as we are in as far as speed of communications, travels, things like that. Munich was famous not only for its Oktoberfest, which is gallons and gallons of beer being drunk, but also for its great ski equipment, mainly boots. I got an excellent pair of boots for $50, which normally would cost about, I don't know, Danny looked it up for me, and I think it's around $100. So I think I saved a little bit of money there. And by the way, my skis have arrived. They are in perfect shape, no trouble, and so I'm planning on going skiing as soon as possible. I left my boots in Munich totally by accident. I told them I'd come pick them up the next day, but because we went to the concentration camp, we didn't get back before they closed, which was only at 12 o'clock. And so I had to come back for them later. We went on to Salzburg, got to see where the Sound of Music was taken, got to see the various palaces of that area. It was just beautiful, the color, the art, and everything. It's a small town, actually, but it's got a tremendous amount of variety and tremendous amount of, I guess you'd call it, antiquity in it. And beautiful palaces and the beautiful scenery. It's really Austria, how you would picture Austria. Well, anyway, the kids left the next day for Vienna, and I left the next day for Munich again. I caught a ride back with our bus drivers, and they dropped me off in Munich. I got my boots and shopped around a little bit. Then I headed on back to catch up with them in Vienna. I hitchhiked most of the way, and it took me from the time I started hitchhiking at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I got to Vienna at 7:30 in the morning. So I hitchhiked all night. It's kind of hard. I took about 6 rides, but a lot of the time I was sitting on the side of the road trying to catch a ride at night, which, ask Jerry, is fairly difficult. I had my little American flag that I would wave, and that they say you get picked up faster if you have an American flag or a British flag, because they pick you up out of curiosity. I suppose the same way we'd pick up someone waving a British flag or a German flag or something like that, just out of curiosity. Well, anyway, I did make it, and it was a good experience for me as far as hitchhiking went. I learned how to do it in Europe, where to stand, what not to do, and how to tell them where you want to go when you can't even speak their language. So I gained something out of that. Well, Vienna, really nothing I can say about that. It's just a beautiful town, large, and great variety. You can get anything you want out of that, from that, in a book. But then we traveled by night train to Venezia, to Venice, and we got there. Of course, as soon as we entered Italy, it started raining. Previously, it had not rained a drop, and the sun was shining every single day. It was beautiful. But as soon as we get into Italy, it rains but it was a short-lived rain, and we got to see all of Venice, almost all of Venice, and we traveled in and out. You can't believe the size of the roads, the number of canals, and also the smell from the rivers. It's really astonishing. Thousands of pigeons all over the place. I'm beginning to hate pigeons. But anyway, from then we went on to Florence. So we've been in Florence, I don't know how long, a month, something like that. I've been to Rome, I've been to Pisa, Tower of Pisa. I just got back from there. I hitchhiked down to there and got to see the Tower of Pisa and the seashore. I went swimming in the ocean. A good experience. Borrowed a friend of mine's swimming suit and went in swimming. Only person swimming. Water was actually warm. Rome, I don't know if I ever told you what I did there, but it was a very good experience. If you send this tape right back, I can send you some more. But I went down the catacombs, got to see all the catacombs. I went off on my own down in the catacomb with candles where we weren't supposed to go, and got to see a lot more than I think I normally would. I even got myself a bone from one of the dead Christians. They were scattered all over the place. You couldn't believe it. Well, this week I am taking off for Paris, and I'm going to meet a friend of mine in Paris and stay at his house. So it should be pretty educational. It looks like I'm getting to the end of my tape, so I might get cut off at any moment. And so, if there's nothing else, I'll say goodbye. And if this gets to you soon enough, Kathy, be sure and do that favor for me about the pizza and about the roses to Butch for a military ball. Also invite her out every once in a while. And keep everybody out of trouble. Say hi to everybody else I can't say hi to, and I miss you very much. This tape is longer than I thought. I just see keeps on going back into the bottom of it. So I guess I just better quit. See what I got. This is Dennis Aloysius McGuire Dowell signing off from Florence. Calling to you from the devastated area of Florence, Italy, the art center of the world. I'd like to say this about the election results. I feel that in the future we can do much better. We can unite the Delwo army of voters, which is very numerous, or will be very numerous, and put in any man we desire. Also, if Mr. Delwo, Mr. Robert Delwo, desires to run for any office, he has various numbers of relatives that'd be willing to work their tail ends off, pushing him through. And specifically the office of senator, since the congressman's office seems to be sewed up by Mr. Foley for the years to come. And I feel Mr. Foley will be a little bit afraid to try for the senatorial job so soon, but I think Mr. Delwo would do a tremendous job. There are many people that agree with this. Getting down to the business at hand, I'd like to take a break right at this moment and check back and see if this is coming through a lot better than the other one. Actually, this tape is coming through worse than the other one. The only thing in its favor is the fact that it's going to be longer and I hope a little bit more informative. I think the trouble is the machine, you came through loud and clear, but the recording device in this must be a little bit haywire. Hazy, and it doesn't seem to be coming through fine, but I will have to progress as fast as possible to get as much matter as I can covered in this short period. I made a few notes on some things I'd like to say. First of all, I did go skiing and I enjoyed it terrifically. If you look at the postcards I think you should have received by now, you can see the beauty of the mountains that surround the little town that we stayed in. We stayed in this little hotel. It was right on almost where the ski lift starts for 1,500 lira, which is around a little over $2. $2 actually is what it comes down to. And the all-day lift is equal
is $4. And this lift consists of a gondola, a big gondola, one of these tram type deals that holds 75 people, 79 people. But it was really terrific. It was the first week skiing, and I got to try out my boots and my skis and everything. I had a little trouble with my boots. They're a little bit tight. New type of boot. I'm not used to anything that's any tighter than a wet spaghetti noodle. And so it was kind of new to me. But I enjoyed skiing, and I enjoyed the 3 feet of powder that we encountered there. As far as the flood goes, when we first learned about the flood, we were up skiing. It was the second day of skiing, and I looked over this guy's shoulder, and I started to laugh because I saw San Marco Square flooded. Now, there are 2 San Marco squares, one in Venice. And every year, the tide gets high right about this time, and you get a foot of water on San Marco Square, which I thought was all funny. But then Jim Penna, who I was skiing with, pointed out very definitely that was Florence San Marco. And so we read further, and we got all excited. It was Florence. Florence, according to that, was totally devastated. It was wiped off the map. And we got a little scared. I mean, anxious for the kids back at Gonzaga, and anxious also for all the stuff we left behind, all the art treasures at Florence. It was really kind of a shock. But we continued skiing, not letting that hurt our enjoyment of the skiing. Then we got down and we talked to our couple Italian friends we met there, and found out that it wasn't actually as bad as they had said. It was fairly bad, but not that bad. And day by day, hour by hour, actually, we gathered more information concerning the flood. And it got worse, and then it got better, and then it got worse, and then it got better. But when we decided to leave, we were afraid that we would not be able to reach Florence, because there was not a train working, roads were closed, no airport, no car transportation, bus transportation, no train transportation, no telephone, no telegraph, electricity, nothing, and we really feared that. So we went to Milan, and we met up with some other kids, and so I talked them into going to Bologna and not spend the night there, which would have been foolish. We were all broke, if I remember right. And progressed to Bologna, which was about, 80 kilometers from Florence. And I told them that don't worry about the big things, they take care of themselves. And so, normally, as far as my great leadership goes, I pulled them all through, and immediately upon reaching Bologna, we found that the first train to Florence was open, which was a special train. And so we bought the first tickets on that and rushed on there and saved ourselves a place. And I was just packed later on. But we made it to Florence, and we got in there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Got in here at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you better believe me, it was quite a shock. We walked down the streets, and first of all, no lights. That in itself gave it an eerie look. 5 o'clock in the morning, a little glow to the sky. The sun hasn't actually even made a sunrise effect. There's a moon still up, a bright moon, causing shadows. And here we were carrying skis down the road, and we see mud just feet high. We see walls just totally demolished. We see cars thrown against walls. We see everywhere people just standing around. Not everywhere. This early in the morning, a lot of them were sitting down and trying to sleep. Around candles, around little fires. The whole place had an aspect of how you'd picture a war would be. Except there wasn't any war. It was just a war of water. I guess you could call it that. But to substantiate our feeling that it was a war, about 10 tanks, Italian tanks, believe it or not, I didn't know they had any, but Italian tanks came just marching by. The sound that a tank makes, it really gives you an eerie feeling. And they're shouting in Italian, get out of here, get this way, go that way, do this. And so our first look at Florence after the flood was quite a shock. So we went back to the dorm. We got here, say, 6 o'clock in the morning. We had quite a walk. And first of all, it's hard to get into our school. It's all locked up about that time. But we finally got in, got all settled. There's no water whatsoever. We're dirty from traveling. No water, no electricity, no heat, no... well, there was food, but they don't have very good food no matter how you look at it. So I guess you can say no food. And I stayed up, I didn't go to bed, so I had gone to sleep for quite a while. But anyway, we stayed up, and I just got into my old grubby clothes that, thank you, Mom, you sent over, and got them all muddy. I spent all day, all the daylight time, working in people's houses, is what it was. We had a look at people's houses we never would have seen before. It's really quite interesting. We've never been inside of an Italian home, just a normal, regular apartment type home. And here we are in their house, in their houses, digging out this mud that's a foot high all over the place. You walk into this house and there's a line, a watermark about 10 feet high, 6 feet high, depending on where they are. We shovel out mud, we shovel out broken furniture, shovel out rotting mice, dead vermin. It was really quite an experience. And it was educational in a good way too, because we did get to meet the people and practice our Italian and give them a good impression of us. Right now I'm looking at my muddy clothes. They're hanging outside the door. They are covered. It's totally covered. We worked from that. We got back Monday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. We worked all day Monday, all day Tuesday. Well, all day up until now. Actually, I worked yesterday. There were 4 of us that went out yesterday, and we had the worst encounter with mud yesterday. We helped this friend, a friend of a beneficiary of Gonzaga was knee-deep in mud, and so we spent a very long time helping him dig out all day yesterday, and it was really something. The mud, he had this antique store down in the basement, and the whole place naturally was flooded up to 10 feet above the basement. And all this furniture was floating around. They got rid of the water, and we're down there about knee-deep in mud, and hauling out these things that cost, these little tables, these little love seats, that cost $200, 300,000 lira, I don't know, which is about $500. You can't believe the amount of merchandise that was just totally demolished. You can't even comprehend. Everywhere people were throwing out books, beautiful books that you just drool at. These big dictionaries, these big encyclopedias, these big art books, these art pictures, these sketches, everything, just out in the middle of the street. Like I read in a paper that this is the biggest garbage collection in the world. It's what the Army does. They get these dump trucks, thousands of them, and fill them up with all these things, from antiques to paintings to everything, and just dump it in the river. Just give it right back to the river. And it's really something nice. Leather goods, piles of leather goods. There's 3 stores right in a row throughout the leather goods, and in a pile of leather goods alone, gloves and other leather goods, was higher than my head. And other stores had flour all over the place, coffee all over the place. It was just shocking. And we walked. This is 2/3 of Florence, mind you. This is the greatest part of Florence. The panels on the baptistry, the famous, world-famous panels that were carved out of bronze. About 6 of them fell, 5 or 6 of them fell. Didn't get damaged, but they fell off the gate, which is something that is kind of like heaven falling. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but never these plates. But anyway, I guess the foundations of the Duomo were shaken. A lot of guys, some guys were down digging actually in the middle of the Duomo, the church, because they had found the ruins of another church, what they thought might be the original Duomo or the original church there. And so all that was white. didn't help the foundations there. You see all these people walking around, mud up to their heads, digging. Everybody was working except for the soldiers, the Italian soldiers. They astonished me. Boys were digging and digging and digging, and these guys were just leaning on shovels, watching. It's just astonishing. Then you see a group of American men, and they're just working their hands off. I don't know. I suppose American guys don't work all the time either, but I think when there's a disaster, everybody works. Everybody works. But we encountered a lot of times people that wouldn't let you help them, which is understandable. They have a lot of private things and want to do it themselves. But then we encounter a lot of people, like in one case, a pregnant woman her husband was unable to help anyway, and they would have had that mud in there until they died, unless we were there to help them. Their neighbors didn't seem to have any desire whatsoever to help, which is shocking. People in the upper stories would just walk by without even hardly looking, or might even ask what happened. And it's rather astonishing. But anyway, we gained quite a name over here, and an awful lot of respect from the Italians by helping out. I hope that we don't do anything wrong to discredit this great fame of the mud kickers. We also got an invitation from Rome because of this, that we could stay free in this university over there because of the wonderful work we've done. The kids did do a lot of work. Not all the kids worked a total week and a half, but several of them did. Several of them worked from the time the flood started to up till now, and most of them have given up now. They're either exhausted or sick. I got sick. I drank some bad water, I guess, and I got real sick. I'm just getting over that now. It only hits me every once in a while. But I guess everybody gets sick. It's the first time I've been sick, so I'm really not upset about it. I had breakfast in bed and music. Kids brought me music and flowers and cards, and it was really great. We have a good group of kids over here. I was glad to get the note from you, Dad. Thanks for it was a nice letter, and I now have plenty of check blanks. I didn't need any more check blanks. I just needed the money to write with the checks, but that's fine. I hope that you're not disappointed with the amount of money I'm spending. I am trying to keep it down, but you'd be surprised how many little things add up. Anything from a Coke to something to tide you over before dinner comes. They have no breakfast that you can really speak of as breakfast. It's just a roll and some coffee, and I'm used to 6 bowls of cereal, and so usually I need a hot dog or something like that, and so I grab a little bit of meat somewhere for my breakfast, and that costs a little bit, and then letters, and then haircuts, and laundry, and photography, developing, having copies made. All this takes time, takes money, and so I'm spending, but I'm cutting down. I'm trying to keep from spending money unnecessarily. I got some other things, I guess. I should get. One thing is important. Could you send me Rosemary's address? Since she is not going to write me, I guess I should write her and get her on the ball, because she, for one, ought to realize how much a guy likes to get letters, and I'd like to write her and give her a little bit of a lecture. And as far as Kathy goes, I think she needs a compass tied around her neck to guide her and let her know where the airport is. Anyway, with all the signs out there, I don't know how she missed it, actually. But then, Kathy's Kathy. Sorry about that, Kathy. I really enjoyed your letter, by the way, Kathy. It was really tremendous. It's too bad about Jerry in the draft and his grades and his Honda and everything else, but I'm not worried a bit about Jerry. He's been through too many crises to have to worry about him, because he seems to always get through them one way or another, and I think he should just go into the Army and get what he can out of the Army, and then try it again when he gets back out. Evidently, he doesn't want to finish college as such. He wants to take college as a way to get out of the Army. So maybe he should go into the Army, get as much as possible out of it, maybe get into this branch he's talking about, and diving and whatever it was. But at least get into it and then get out of it, and then continue diving or coaching or whatever he wants to do. It's hard to coach without a teaching certificate. That's one thing he's got to get, if he can at all. Hey, and little Robert, I guess you're not little anymore, but Robert, keep running around that little track that Dad made, that Dad and you kids made. And by the time I come back, I want you to be able to beat me. I mean, you should be able to by then, and I'd be an old man, and you'd be able to wipe me out. You should be able to. Little Joey, since you're so talkative at home, why don't you talk to me on the tape? So Dad had to keep on pushing you. So next time, give me a nice long sermon on the pros and cons of the, oh, I don't know, think of something. Pros and cons of getting bit by a dog. What you should do about it. Okay? One other thing, Mom. I'd like to point out that Shirley, I guess, is going to have to stay another day or something before she can go home on Christmas. Well, it's somewhere around the 17th, and she's going to ask you if she can stay out at our house for that one night. I think it's due to her putting on a Christmas party, or organizing a Christmas party for the orphans at the orphanage right nearby school. But I don't know, maybe it'd be kind of nice if you took the incentive given to you by your dear son and asked her if she'd like to stay there, because a lot of people are embarrassed. I doubt if Butch would be, but a lot of people are. Butch is kind of good that way. She usually isn't embarrassed. But speaking of Christmas, I don't mean to disappoint you, but as it stands right now, I have no cheap place, cheap, underlined, to buy gifts, since all the straw markets, all the flea markets, and all the little bug markets are destroyed totally and completely, and therefore most of the places I was going to get presents for the little kids at are destroyed. But even before this, I had contemplated not sending these presents and collect different items throughout my travels throughout Europe, which I have been doing, and put them in my trunk, and when I arrive at home, just display them and distribute them to my little brothers and sisters and to my little family back home. I don't know how this appeals to you, but to me it'd be better. I'd kind of like to pass them out myself and be able to describe their value, and even though they're cheap, be able to build them up into something great and really expensive. And also I'd like to be able to pick up some presents in Egypt, which we're going to spend 5 days in Egypt, which is tremendous, I think. A lot of kids don't, but I do. And fewer days in the Holy Land, which is good because there isn't that much to see in 10 days. 6 days you can do it just as well. But I hope this is okay with you, that I don't send any presents home during Christmas, or if I do, it'd be very, very few and very light, and I can send them airmail. As far as you sending me presents, to me there isn't any need, and actually I would discourage it, because more or less me being over here is the biggest Christmas gift you could give me, and I really appreciate it, and it'd be a lot of trouble for you to do that. But if you did insist, there's always ifs. If you did insist, the one thing I would like is music. Yes, music. And the thing to do is ask Butch about that, because I'm practicing guitar every single day a little bit, and I've got it down pretty good. And I've been using songs, but music books over here in English, which is what I want to learn, with chords, very necessary, with chords marked, G, G7, whatever, marked, cost, whereas in the United States it cost $2. Here they cost $8. And that is quite a markup. And so if you did want to send something, talk to Butch. She can tell you what I'd more or less like and maybe help you get them. But just send those over, and if you could, maybe before I leave on the Christmas tour, because we're going to have a lot of time on the boat, which we can't go, you know, swimming or something like that, and I'd like to be able to practice some new songs. So if you if you could, maybe do it anyway. I mean, but as far as outright presents go, music could be much more appreciated, unless you got $1,000 bill you don't want. But actually, I'm suited just fine over here on this wonderful present in Europe. And so that's as far as Christmas goes. I've just gotten out of my first half of a 3-hour course in political science. We have a 3-hour course once a day, once a week, every week. And it comes from somewhere around, something like this, 6 o'clock till 7:30, and then 8:30 till 9:30, something like this, which actually makes it, what, 2.5 hours. It's very interesting. We have a very cynical, I guess you'd call him cynical, or critical instructor that he lets us know the weak points of our government and also the weak points of his government. And tonight's class was actually hysterical because he was describing the different fights, actual fist fights they have in their Senate and in their Chamber of Deputies. And I find that very interesting. But all in all, that class to me is one of the most interesting alongside of art history class, both of which I feel make the trip worthwhile just in exposing me to art and exposing me to a totally new aspect in politics. And believe me, it is different. I'd like to spend a whole tape on Italian politics and Italian pressure groups and Italian fights, and they're really emotional people. You just can't believe how emotional they can get. You argue with them, and sometimes you fight with them physically, but here it isn't as prevalent, with your friends, but still it can come about. I just got done today with our first intramural football game. They formed up teams. I'm on one team out of 5. I'm on a fairly decent team. We have one difficulty. Our quarterback, who was picked not by the men on the team but by the athletic board, I guess you'd call it. He seems to be having trouble with his passing, and we have trouble with our blocking, having to hold off the gentleman on the other team long enough so he can decide where he's going to pass. And so I'm learning different techniques in blocking, and I'm rather proud of myself and my ability to stop dead in his tracks a gentleman about twice as big as I am. And I got bruises to prove it. One of my eyelids, I guess, one of my eyes, I guess, is swollen almost shut. I got bruises all over. I really enjoy it. It's good spirit. Gets everything out of your blood, along with a little blood. But these 5 teams almost comprise all the total manpower, and so everybody gets to participate in something like this. And dear family, I'd like to, at this moment, introduce to you my famous and wonderful roommate, Stefano. Stefano?
Buonasera, spero vivamente di fare la vostra conoscenza quest'estate, se avrò il piacere di venire negli Stati Uniti, dove avrò un campeggio nello stato di Idaho, vicino a Spokane. Spero proprio di conoscervi, perché so che siete numerosi e simpatici, come vedo dal vostro Denny, un bene amato campione.
Thank you, my dear brother. I shall translate that for you if you wish. I might have a little bit of trouble because I wasn't listening as close as I should. But what it comes down to is that he is very pleased with meeting you, right? Very pleased with meeting you, and hopes that he gets to come to the United States soon, and that'd be when he comes to the United States with the Boy Scouts in Idaho. I mean, he comes to Idaho with the Boy Scouts. Also, the Boy Scouts in Italy are a little bit bigger deal than they are in the United States, and I'm not supposed to smile when I say Boy Scouts. He didn't like that, because it is very important. By the way, I don't have a single picture of the family, of the whole family, and my roommate would like to see one for one person. Myself, I'd like to have one, and I'd like to be able to show around my wonderful family. So if you get a chance, send me over a picture representing the wonderful 8 with the big 2, and I can frame it and put it up on my art gallery up here with all my 3,500 girlfriends, numbering about 1, and all my slides that number about the same amount. So if you get